Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Overseas Famous podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Owens. I know it can get old if I constantly and continuously say that this episode is the best, because if you listen to the show before and I'm like, this is an incredible episode, and you're like, it was all right. This episode is one of my favorites. We interviewed Joe Ajike. Joe is a player development coach for the Washington Wizards, and really gave some incredible insight on what actually happens with a player development coach, how he got into coaching in the first place, which was a grind. It was a great story. He talked about the Miami runs where, you had some top NBA players going to Miami and doing these summer runs, and he would work with them. And just talking about, working with John Wall, building a relationship with him, Bradley Beal, a lot of really good NBA players, and how he really came to be this player development coach. I always say that, those guys who are on the floor really working the skills with the NBA players, I feel like they have more of a connection. You look at, you always had that assistant coach who was like the cool assistant coach. You were boys with them. You had a great relationship with them. Once you become the head coach, you kind of become, you have to be a dickhead. And Joe is in that position where he's kind of, working with them, but maintains that positive, good relationship with some of the best players in the NBA. Joe also gives some really good advice to overseas athletes about what they need to do. Some of those situations where, you're a fringe NBA player, what exactly goes through a coach's mind, and how do you kind of talk to that player and help them understand, how good you are, but, there's only limited spots. So Joe was a great interview. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one a whole lot. I hope you guys enjoy this, because I really had a great time bringing this to you. As you can see, it's May. So, the sleeves are coming off because it's getting hotter and hotter. And I'm a big dude. I'm 7 feet tall. I'm like 260. I lied. I'm probably like 280 now. That's a fucking huge 20-pound swing. But, so I sweat a lot. I'll just leave it. I just sweat. So I'm a big dude. I sweat. I like to wear tank tops because it airs me out. So this is a great interview. Enjoy Joe Ajike on the Overseas Famous podcast, Washington Wizards player developmental coach. Here we go with Joe. Hello, everyone, and welcome again. Today, joined by a player development assistant coach for the Washington Wizards, which is super cool because we like to get the whole entire atmosphere of what an athlete goes through and how you can get into these different areas, because a lot of overseas and like athletes will look at, how do I get into coaching? How do I get into this field? How do I get into this field? So we're here with Joe Ajike. Joe is going to be, we had Baba on with D5 with Matt. Joe is Baba's older brother. Joe went to Rider University, played basketball there, and now is the assistant coach for the Washington Wizards, which is a crazy awesome thing, just to be an assistant coach in the NBA. And we're going to talk about that a lot. But Joe, thank you so much for joining us. This is super cool today.
Yes, sir. Happy to be here, man.
It's and we're going to have you take us through your journey. But there's a part of me, I mean, first, in terms of like ego, being an assistant coach in the NBA has to be like a great ego boost. Like, I would be unbearable if I was an assistant coach in the NBA, because it would be like Billy Madison, and I'd just like pull up to the height. I'd be like flashing my gear all the time, playing loud music. I'd just be people would be like, shut up, dude, we get it. But I just think being an assistant coach in the NBA, it's like, that's like an amazing experience, because not only, to play in the NBA, it's great. And obviously, such a tremendous accomplishment, but to be considered to be a coach, to be considered to guide the best players in the world is such an incredible accomplishment. So how did you start at Rider, Incredible senior year. You then go into take us through the journey from Rider, and how did you get into the NBA coaching scene?
Right. So it's a lot, but I'll try to just, hit the main parts. But basically I got to Rider. This is 2014, right after I graduated high school. And I met Kevin Noon, who actually went to the same high school I went to, Cherry Hill West. Very similar story. Like went to Rider, started off as a manager, became a walk on. And then literally from there, he went to the University of Miami, became a grad assistant, and I followed the same trajectory. So get to Rider, 2014, ultimately worked my way onto the roster. And then the goal or the dream of becoming a coach really started, the first day I really walked on campus. I walked into the gym, I met, Noon, I met Kevin Baggett, the head coach, and other assistants at the time. And like from the first workout I helped with, it was just like, it's like a different vibe, like a different, energy in here that I really, really like, coming from Cherry Hill, playing in high school. And then now trying to find, I still love the game. How do I kind of harness my love for it in a different way? And managing was like amazing because you kind of get to do everything. And, having that impact with those guys and, learning that I can connect with people in a unique way, like on the court. And it goes beyond basketball. Like, it's like, we talk about so many other things like real life, things guys are going through, things guys are, ambitious about. And it's like just to be somebody that so many different athletes over the year has been able to, confide in and really, go to has been like probably one of my biggest joys. So from Rider, finished up senior year, we had a great year. I get locked in at University of Miami as a grad assistant. And, I get down there. And at first, going in, I'm like, okay, I want to, be a college assistant, whatever. And then, I'm in the gym, outside of camp hours, and I'm like, we have so many different NBA, coaches, players, trainers, like coming through the gym. So I would just be in the gym like for hours, like literally like from morning till like night. I'm in there like with our guys, when we had kids, camp for kids, and then like in the evening, all the NBA guys come. I'm like, I think I want to go there. Like it's top of the top, work with the best of the best. And it was just like, ooh. And then it was amazing because all the personnel was literally coming to me. Like this is where I work. It's a grind to be there, but the best part of it is that coaches, players, trainers, executives from all over like are coming to Miami. What I'm saying? Even beyond the school, like they're just around. So it's like it was simple to me. I was like, I just got to be in the mix. I just got to be in the gym. I just got to be like, at games. I got to be at, wherever I got to be at to meet people and just, just show them like, hey, like I just love this game. I want to be around it. I want to, help people get better. And, just kind of sticking true to that and, putting work in every day, that kind of carved the lane for me to now, not only start helping these guys like work out, like it just started off as just rebounding. Like I would see coaches, trainers, I'd be like, hey, you need a rebounder? Like, they're like, sure. Next, I'm rebounding for so-and-so for like, an hour. Then they're like, oh, snap, he's in here every day when we come. And then it's like a month goes by, 2 months. And it's like, man, this guy like really, likes just helping. Like he likes just being around the mix or being in the mix. So one of the biggest people that happened with was John Wall. Like I met him back in 2017 and like he would come into summers and it's like, just be there. He's a gym rat, like off season, like he's going hard. So it's like, he's in there, I'm in there. And it's like same with, a bunch of other guys coming in. So through him, I met, different, Wizards personnel. I met different trainers, different, a lot of that traces back to him. And then ultimately I met like somebody that's like a brother to me, Alex McLean, who's currently like, he's our director of player development. And when he met me in one summer, he was like, picked up the same vibe. Like, damn, this dude just likes to be in the gym. And, years go down and like, our paths cross again and we're on the same sideline. So it's been a very like, it's a grind. Like that's kind of like the fast forward version of it, but it's like, it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of, days where you're like, I love doing this, but it's like, how exactly is it going to work? But I really love doing it. So no matter what, I'm just going to keep trying. I'm going to just keep working and just keep trying to get better, keep sharing my energy. And, it was amazing. And, here I am, some years later.
It's funny because a lot of people look at when you play overseas and like when you're on that grind of playing, like hoping to get back or hoping to keep going. It's just about putting in that work, and it's the same path that you took. You just said, like I'm going to put in that work. I'm going to be in the gym, and I'm going to be seen. And I think that's just it's an incredible story of like, and I think a lot of guys who play, it's like they're almost, the ego is like, well, I'm not going to go and rebound for this guy. And I've had a similar experience with, some of the guys that I've worked with. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to put in the time. Like, it doesn't really matter. I've played, but you have to kind of put your ego aside if you want to kind of get into that grind and you want to get into that business. So I think that's a good lesson that you're kind of showing, that, you just got to be in the gym. You got to put in the time, you kind of put in the effort, and you'll meet the right people. Now, take us through those those runs in Miami, because the runs in Philly, like I used to do the runs in Philly, and you'd have Iverson would be there, and that would be cool, and like Aaron McKee would be there, and you had like a lot of the overseas guys like Mark Karcher, and a lot of those guys would be there, and you'd have some of the Sixers, and then like Kyle, when he was kind of in college, Lowry would be coming. And you had those good runs. But I can't imagine what the Miami runs look like, because those were good runs, but I mean, it was mostly overseas and a sprinkle of a few NBA guys. Those Miami runs had to be crazy. You mentioned John Wall. Take us through some of those runs where you just kind of like, holy shit, like this is going down right now.
Yeah, it's amazing, because it's like, one, there's so many different guys from different teams that come down. So it's like that already, like the first time you kind of get to see that is to me, it was humbling. It was very unique, because it's like when you take into consideration the fact that people pay, during the regular season or the NBA season, there's fans all over the place paying, a lot of money to go see these guys. And it's like, these guys are just coming to the gym that I, operate out of, and I just get to watch them hoop for essentially free. So that part was dope. But in terms of like the guys that come down, it's just like, number one, it's just the fact that I just went through a full NBA season, like 82 games. We didn't make the playoffs, but just finishing my first year, I was like, damn, that's a lot of games you just played. And then you have guys that go through the playoffs, whatever, and it's like you'll see them in Miami like a week or two after the season ends, and they're like working out, they're ready to play pickup. So from that, I picked up like work ethic. It's like these guys really love the game, like seeing up close like the grind of a season, and then how much these guys, are doing stuff in times that they don't necessarily need to, but they make it a priority. I was like, okay, like I was learning from them as they were coming. Those are things I was picking up on, like besides the fact that they're playing. It's like, what habits can I see that they're doing that I could, emulate in my own way. And channel that into my passion for the game. Because at the end of the day, like once upon a time I played, now I'm not. But, my love for the game is probably even stronger now than when I actually played. And that's because of, just growing an appreciation for all the different, lanes of it. And, I feel like a great foundational piece is just finding your niche and loving the game for the, the purity of it, and then just keep building on that. Keep reminding yourself of why you do it, and that kind of directs the way as to how you, become a, coach or trainer, whatever it is that you're meant to be, post playing. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun down there.
That is, it sounds amazing. And I just, when you take all this into account, and just like because I think we talked about ego before, I think the ego would be hard too, because you'd be like, I can still play. Like I can still do this a little bit. Like I still have a little bit. And you're kind of watching these guys and be like I want to hop in. Like I think that was like before my knee just became destroyed, where now I'm like an old man and I'm just like, whatever. I've honestly shut off all basketball activities, and I'm like, okay, I was good. I'm not anymore. I can't move. I can't do anything. And I'm fine with that. And it was like an acceptance that I had to go through. But those first few years when I would kind of work with guys, and like there's like Michael Kidd Gilchrist and guys, and I was like, I could still kind of play a little bit, and I'm like, I need to hop on and go, but I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like I'm not going to get myself involved. But there is that bit of ego where you're like, I know how to play this game too. Like you're not just like a guy who just went and coached from like young age on. Like you've played the game, the game. So was that ever difficult to kind of deal with, to be like, I can still do this a little bit?
For me, not necessarily, because like from high school, like you might know Coach Tarrant, Hamisi Tarrant.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like he helped me see that my biggest attribute Like, and it's gonna sound funny, and I accepted this at a young age. My biggest attribute was like my ability to motivate others and get others going. So like I kind of knew that I don't know if I'm necessarily play forever, but like I do this at a really high level. And it doesn't matter if I'm actually on the court, if I'm not on the court, like no matter what, like when it comes to basketball, I just love getting people going. So like that's what ultimately helped me just go from playing to like just being a manager. That's I feel like that's a great test of how if you're able to do that and check your ego out the door because you're around the game and you're around guys your age, and you're like, man, I could do this, I could do that. But it's like it's kind of like knowing where you're needed most and really taking pride in what you're doing. But in terms of guys that wanna are considering coaching or training, whatever it is, and you got to check the ego. It's like again, it's like checking the foundation of why you're doing it. Once you go coach mode or trainer mode, like you have to accept the fact that this isn't about you. Like your job is to help these guys. So you can't really do that with an ego. So I feel like the better you are at kind of checking that at the door and having that realization within yourself, I feel like the sooner you can kind of start finding ways to impact the game, other than scoring and, doing things that you were accustomed to. Like now it might be like a guy you work with, and you see him, have a really good game, or you see him do something that you guys are working on. Like to me, that's top, one of the top feelings. Like I remember that more than I remember, a shot I might have hit in college or in high school. Like when I see a guy that I was in the gym with and, I'm watching a game or whatever, and he's doing stuff that we worked on or like stuff we talked about, it's like, I feel like I hit a game winner.
Going into the Washington Wizards, you start out, you get your foot in the door, and now you're going into the Wizards, and you're a more hands-on coach. Just because I know the head coaches a lot of times they're not hopping into practice and like banging or getting rebounds or anything like that. You're like you're a coach who's like rebounding, working with these guys, doing development skills and things like that. Do you ever have a story where you just were blown away? I talked to Nick Stauskas, and Nick was on, and he's playing professionally. He's playing in, for the Portland Trailblazers.
Castillo.
Yeah, Sauce Castillo.
Yeah.
And he told the story. He's like, I was playing, and he's like, Nick's a great shooter, and he's playing with CJ McCollum, and he's playing with Seth Curry.
Yeah.
And they're playing this game, like shooting game. And he said, Dame came in and just played it one time and destroyed them. And it was just like an eye-opening experience from a player's point of view, be like, holy shit, like this guy is for real. And you with Bradley Beal and some of the, John Wall, like you had these towns. Was there ever a time where you were blown away when you were just kind of working with these guys? Like, wow, this guy's the truth.
Man, there's a number of stories. So I'll kind of go in chronological order. So with John, it's like anytime you kind of get to see him play, like in person, and he's actually, it's funny because like back in maybe 2014, 2015, one of my early years at Riders, I was able to go to a Sixers game because like Riders only about an hour away. So they were actually playing the Wizards, and I had good seats. And that's the first time I got to see John, not knowing that we developed a relationship, down the road. But he's just Showtime, man. Like he just plays, and it's like everything he does, like from the pass or like a pick and roll move or a shot that he makes or a dunk that he puts in. It's like the dude is just like different. There's guys in the league and there's guys at every level, every sport that like you're almost like, yo, you were born to do what you do. So almost every time I see him play, it's like he just he has a love for the game that every time he steps on the court, it's on display. Like and it's everything. It could be a bucket, it could be a pass, a rebound, a block. Like it's just anything basketball related. He's just like he's a junkie for it. He wants to do it at a high level. And with a guy like Brad, the first day one of the first days we started like pickup with the guys as they were checking in for training camp, and like kind of seeing him, play so up close and personal. And it's like he's another guy that like when there's 10 guys on the court, he's different, like movements, his timing. And one of the things to me that's most impressive with guys like, John and Brad is like what's going on in your head that you're just like, you're doing these things so instinctively, like, making a read. Cause like we've all played, but you get to a point at some point in time where you can't necessarily do certain things that another person on your team or on another team is doing. And that's what kind of makes them, in that tier of, players. And you kind of see them, and it's like when you see it so up close, I'm like, how the hell you just like instinctively spinning this way, and then like, you get into a step like moves that we do like when we're kind of in the gym shooting by ourselves. These guys are doing it like live, and then in the game, on TNT, whatever. They're like the showtime. So it's like I don't know. I just really appreciate greatness, whether it's a player, or coach, musician. Like, I just love trying to dissect like how the hell do you like just do something in such a like unique level. So
I always
yeah,
think that the one thing that always made, when I noticed when I played, you would do a move over and over again and you'd perfect it, but then it's perfecting the move in a situation where you're alone in the gym, or you have like a guy holding the pad and you're trying to do this move and perfect it over and over. There's a difference between doing that move and then reading how that move is going to work in a game, and knowing if your defender leans this much this way, you're going back this way. And to do that in real time at a speed that's unbelievable, I don't think people understand. It's like these millisecond decisions that make you, I mean, you talk about like a guy like Usain Bolt, the best runner we've ever seen. And, he's the guy who came in second was probably like 0.2 seconds behind him and no one knows his name. And I think just those 0.2 seconds that you're able to change and do things, that's what makes you great. Like those reads, you're able to get that shot off. Because if I did that and, I was a 0.1 seconds late, the shot's getting blocked. And then people don't really understand, just like you said, that natural movement of some of these guys who do it so well. And you can perfect a move over and over in the gym, but until you actually do it in real time, knowing how a defender is going to guard you, it's an analyzation. And I think, people don't really understand how intelligent and how reactive these basketball players are, and, professional athletes in general.
And it just becomes so much more of a chess game because like you go from high school to college, you're taking the best of the best in high school and you're putting them all in the pool. And then you go from college to NBA, you're taking the best, and then overseas too, you're taking the best from college, overseas, whatever, and you're throwing them in the league. And it's like, all right, go ahead, go at it. And then to see like these are the top of the top, like of the top, it's just like wow. And it's like you said, it's 0.2 seconds, it's a 0.1 second difference to which they can make a decision or a read that the next guy probably can't.
And
So it's just fun. It's fun to see that like type of like just attention to detail, and it goes past basketball. It's in life as well. Like that's why like everything I kind of do, I find a way to relate it back to basketball, like or to a game, and then same with music. Like I just kind of so it's so many details that transcend the sport itself.
I love to, you talked about John and his love for the game, which it's funny how fans don't understand that love for the game when a situation occurs where you're injured or you're out, and it's really tough, because fans don't really make that connection. For fans, it's we're moving pieces, we're parts of their lives that they're obsessed with, but those parts of their lives they don't have a personal connection to. So I think it's hard, because as a fan, you look at a guy and you're like, okay, he's sitting out, or he's hurt, or he's always hurt. And you don't really know or see their love for the game, their appreciation and complete dedication to a sport that's given them their whole lives. And that's why I'm always, I'm so pro athlete, obviously, because I played, but just it's crazy to think that, fans don't get that. And if they met, some of these guys in person, and you see that, it's hard to explain to a human being how much love they have for a game when they're looking at it from a complete different perspective. And a guy like John is a great example, because he's such a tremendous athlete, such a tremendous player, but injuries have kind of derailed that. And then people almost write him off, even though the guy loves the game more than you can ever imagine.
Yeah. So, with that, it's like I feel like people just kind of you got to take yourself out of your body and try to like perceive things as others perceive it. So like with a guy like John, and it's not fair because I've been fortunate to, be around him, and a lot of fans they just see them at the game and all they see is, oh, he's not playing. Is he playing? Is he not playing? And then when you understand the piece behind of how much work goes into it, and this is, every athlete that's dealing with injuries and, whatever type of setbacks, they put in so much work, to attempt to come back, and it's like, and it's for it's for people like the fans, like they're when they're working out, they're like, man, like, I hate the fact that, these people are coming to games and I can't play for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it bothers them not being out on the court, despite the fact that they're making, whatever type of money they're making. Like, these guys genuinely just want to go and compete, like the same way, like they were like, 10 years old and they just love playing at the playground. It's the same like childish love for the game. And then we kind of see like the narratives out there where people, write guys off and it's like as if they want to be injured. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense. But but yeah, these guys put in work, man. A lot of work that average people can't put in, or can't discipline themselves to put in, and they do it. That's why they kind of are where they're at today. So there's a lot to learn from that. But everybody's thinking about themselves. They're just disappointed the fact that somebody's not playing, and they're pissed, like they wanted to get hurt. So
yeah, well, I think that's just the world we live in right now. It's like a very like me first world. So fans are like, why are you not playing? Like, you're doing this for me. And like,
yeah,
Twitter's just like a disaster. Although I do like Twitter
it's
just
hilarious,
because
though.
it is like, it's a funny place to be. But then every once in a
Yeah.
while I'll read something like I'll get, and it's always fan related. Like someone was saying something the other day and they were talking about, I can't even remember what the actual thing was. And they're talking about like, how like an athlete, they're just like, well, they get paid, like we as the fans deserve more, and you're like, we pay their tickets, and it's like such an entitlement of a fan
Yeah.
to be like, we pay for your salary. It's like, hold on, without us, like you don't exist,
Yeah.
like there is no team. So
You're right.
and they're like, well, we'll find someone else, and like, no, you what, like you don't understand, like so it's such a, but I do love Twitter just because of the disaster that follows with all of those different conversations.
Yeah, like we all know it. Like this time of year, especially with the playoffs and everything, it's like I use it for updates, but I also like all the trolls and the memes and gifs. Like that stuff is it's really funny.
It is
Um,
funny.
yeah,
It's ridiculous, but it does make me laugh. Like I just go through it and I'm like,
yeah.
what in the world is this? Like there's so many
People are
good things.
creative. People
Yeah.
are creative. Like it's almost like whatever feelings they have, they just find the most like funny way to express it. Like whether it's a picture, a GIF, or a meme, or whatever it is, it's just it's funny. That's what
Yeah.
all I see it as. It's funny. I don't take any of that stuff serious.
No, I think it's like people get on there and try to be real. It's like a silly site. Like
Yeah.
it's just that people try to be real serious on there. And I follow it honestly because I think there's like the sports reporting is done on Twitter. Like people, I knew who the Eagles were drafting, way in advance. And you're like, people who didn't have Twitter, I'm texting a text chain and I'm like, oh, they got the big dude from Georgia, like the big defensive tackle. And they're like,
Right.
they're like, they haven't put the pick in yet. They're still on. I'm like, dude, it's already been announced on Twitter. And they're like, oh, so it's,
And
I
that's
do
why
love.
like when I'm watching like something like the draft, like NFL draft, NBA, it's like, and I want to actually feel the moment of it. I don't go on Twitter because I know Twitter's gonna spoil the surprise. Like I know
Yep.
some teams picking up somebody 10 minutes before they get them. But funny you brought up the draft though, because I feel like that's also a part of the insensitivity of fans kind of getting on certain guys. It sucks seeing some of these kids get drafted, NFL, NBA, whatever, and it's like people are going bashing them or calling them this, that, and the third. I'm like, man, like this is this person's biggest moment in life. Like, and then, I don't know. It's different. I feel like people are just very, very inconsiderate, of
Yep.
these guys. And, understandably, like a lot of it, could be jealousy, animosity, whatever it is. But, the reality is these guys put in a lot of work to get here. So like when I watch things like the draft, I'm like, genuinely happy and appreciating, everybody up there because it's like you're one, like an NBA draft, you're one of 60 people in the world. Like there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that play and want to have that moment. So to see a guy go, anywhere between 1 and 60, I'm like, nobody could take that from you.
Never. It's
Yeah.
always going to be you. And I think that's That's my favorite part of and that's why, like I said, people will be like, this guy doesn't fit and what are we going to do with this guy, and they're complaining. And that's, them as fans, like they're living their own problems and stuff. But I do think, like you said, that's the biggest moment of that person's life. You appreciate it. You don't sit there and be like, this is a mistake. And
Right.
it's funny because one of my friends is the Eagles wide receiver coach, and I'm talking to him, in the draft room, and it's a fun experience. That there's a good camaraderie amongst the coaches when you have that NBA staff and it's put together. Is that something like as a coach that you have to have not only a good group of a good group on the floor that connects and that works with each other, but also as a staff, like putting together that staff that from top to bottom has guys that really enjoy being around each other, love the game, and work
Yeah.
together in a proper setting, just like any other business.
Oh, absolutely. Because you spend so much time together, whether you want to or not. Like, from from literally. So I tapped in with the team around like I think August, summer league was last year. So I officially checked into my role and I was on the bench and everything in Vegas for summer league. And from then until literally just 2 3 weeks ago when we played Charlotte in our last game, I was with the same group of obviously our 14 15 however many guys we have on the roster, and then our coaching staff every single day. And even beyond that, med staff, front office, like it's without whether you wanted to or not, it's a family. And you kind of get to dictate what's the quality and what's the temperature of this family. And when I feel like from a front office perspective, when you're constructing it, you're taking a lot of things, off the basketball court into consideration because everybody can be different, but you want to check, do we have, some foundational pieces that are common across person to person. And by that I mean like characteristics, like your approach to the game, what's your intentions with being here and being involved in this. Because those things gotta align before anything on the court can align. And that's why chemistry, it's a word that's thrown out, a lot, but it's something I really, put a lot of respect on because you see teams like the Grizzlies and it's fun to watch, outside of basketball. I'm looking at things like how Desmond Bain might have a good game and, the whole team is, going crazy. Like they had a great game, and then it's no surprise when you see teams like that, having success, even though they might start off and struggle or whatever. Those are great indicators that, we might not be where we want to be right now, but, with these characteristics and these, this DNA of our team in place, eventually we'll get to that because it's hard. You can have all the talent or whatever, but if you don't have some of those things, it's hard to really, sustain, success, any sport or, any craft.
When you look at the summer league for an overseas athlete is like that make or break. And then you might get a training camp invite. Were you kind of have you ever been in that situation where you've been around a guy and you're like, man, like that sucks, like that dream just kind of got shattered, and all of a sudden you're just seeing him walk out and you're like, damn, like I guess he's heading overseas because he was so close and you just missed it. Has that ever been an experience where you're like, man, that's tough, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that in different ways. It happens. It could be trades. It could be getting waived. It could be injuries. It could just be whatever it is to where it's like you want to be here, but for whatever reason you can't. And then you look at a lot of these guys, and they have a lot of qualifications and things that should push them in, but it's tough because you only have so many spots. So you're gonna have guys that just can't be there. And that's why I tell some players I know like that. My message to them is like, do you love basketball or do you love the NBA or do you just love the glamour of this? Because at the end of the day, I still see a great opportunity overseas. I actually got to go to one of my first overseas games just a couple of weeks ago when I was in Puerto Rico. A great friend of mine, Angel Rodriguez, and another great friend, Dewan Hernandez. We're all connected through the youth. And I trained Angel a lot, I trained Dewan a lot, and I got to go to one of their games, and it was like the atmosphere in there was like, like it was different. Like it's different because obviously it's not what you see here in terms of like the NBA has the best of the best in terms of like outside of the players you have all sorts of Like, for example, you look at a game, you look at commercials, like everything is done, I guess, in the best fashion, to present this as the best league in the world. So when you go to another league or you go to another country or whatever, it's easy to leave here and think like, oh, it's not the NBA or it's not America. It's different. When I go there, it's like the fans are like connected in a way that it's like, whoa, like, and then I found myself just getting super into the game. Like, aside from the fact that these are my guys playing, it was just like the energy in there was just through the roof. So, when guys can't necessarily stick in the league, I'm like, look, you still got a great opportunity, and just like the league, you have opportunity to earn yourself more money, more opportunities. I see all that as a win. Like, it's just a matter of perspective. But that's where a lot of guys struggle. They're just kind of they're committed to, I don't want to say the wrong thing, because at the end of the day, you could want to have whatever you want to have. But as somebody that wants to see you, have a career and do well, I want you to appreciate the game for itself, not necessarily just where you're playing it at. If you want to play pro, there's a lot of opportunity out there. And you got to go compete, you got to grind, you got to get better, and keep earning that next, opportunity. So,
and I think just I've had people ask the question, and it's there's like that part of, like, again, the American fan, where they're like, oh, where did you play? And you're like, oh, mostly overseas, had a cup of coffee here and there, but never was able to catch on. And it's like, oh, and it's like this letdown when you're like, but, I spent, 9 years of my life playing in different all around the world, and it was a great experience. And that's what, like, I think the whole point of this podcast is we're trying to, shed light on, hey, there's a lot of great basketball out there. And to the American fan, like, just because you don't make the NBA, it doesn't mean that the life is over and the dream is over. There's still a lot of basketball. There's still a lot of great opportunities. And like you said, the fans, I mean, those fans, like, the American fans are cool and they're intense and they're great. But a lot of people, I know I go to Phillies games, I go to Eagles games, I go to Sixers games. And like half the time you're just kind of sitting there, like, you're there for the atmosphere. Like, those dudes overseas, those fans are there to cheer on their team from start to finish, and there's no two ways around it.
It's personal.
You don't have a ticket
for every single body.
Yeah, you don't have a ticket and you're just like, oh, here, take this extra ticket for your daughter. It's like, no, that is my ticket. I'm going. I'm canceling all plans because this is what's happening.
Yeah. Do you know Mike Batiste?
I know the name. I don't know him personally.
Yeah. So Mike Batiste is actually on our staff as well. He's another one of our coaches. And the stories he tells me about when he played in Greece is like, I'm like, damn, it was like that. Like, and he was a beast. He was a beast. So like, and when he's telling me these stories, I could just see him. I could see his face, like, kind of reliving that moment. I'm like, damn, this dude, like, enjoyed it. Like, he not only did he have success playing, but like, he genuinely enjoyed the, every bit of that. Like, he enjoyed every piece of playing basketball out there, like from interaction with the fans to, game days, practice. Like, when he talks about his days playing across the water, I'm just very like, I'm like, wow, like, I see somebody not just that has success hooping. It's like, you had success in just life. You enjoyed what you love doing. And that's why, whether you want to transition to a coach, you got to have that. What's your foundation? Like, what are you passionate about? Is it just, where you're at, or is it what you're doing and who you are in this? And his passion, it transitioned right into him as a coach. Because when I get to see him, work with, Daniel Gafford, it's like, it's almost like he's working with himself. Like, he's putting the same, effort and the same care into it that he would when he was playing. So, I think it's a great opportunity. You just have to really be aware of yourself, why you do what you do, and do you necessarily love things in the way that you think you do? Because I feel like once you really get a firm understanding of that, you're then able to really see, okay, can I actually really coach? Can I, mentor? Because I think it's fun. It's a grind, but it's just so fun, like, having this impact and connection with these guys, not for who they are, not for the player they are and the money they make, but just genuinely because, you both love this game, and it helps you connect with each other and make each other better in a lot of different ways.
Joe, I told you in the beginning I was going to keep you for like 20 minutes. It's been 45, but this is honestly one of the coolest conversations, because I think your perspective is so unique, and it's such a great thing for overseas athletes to hear, not only from an NBA coaching standpoint, But you've heard the stories, you've been to the places, you put in the work, and this has been really fun. So Joe,
Yeah.
we appreciate you hopping on the
Sure,
podcast
sure.
this week.
Yeah.
And we'll be checking you out very soon. And great times.
Hey, great. Just to be transparent, I appreciate you guys. I'm honored to be on here, and it's great for me too because I enjoy being able to share whatever perspective I can share. Because my route to getting here was a lot different than the next person's route. But again, just having these conversations is really important for everybody. From coaches to players and anybody that loves the game is trying to figure out where exactly they can fit in and have a sustainable career in it. So these are great conversations. I appreciate you guys having.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us,
Yes,
Joe.
sir. Yes, sir. Much love.